Hello, and welcome to the Dual Rider YouTube channel. Today, I have 2 flat tires. Well, not really, but I think it's important to practice changing flat tires, and the KLR is due for some new shoes. Well, okay, I guess even that part of this video is debatable if you really want to get into the weeds. The stock Dunlop K750s that came on the KLR have about 3,100 miles on them, and while I'm guessing I could probably squeeze out another 500 to 800 miles, they aren't the perfect tire to begin with. I don't actually have any real complaints with them. They have performed well for the kind of riding I'm doing on the KLR, but I would like to try out some other brands, so I don't mind swapping them out a little bit early. I also have some long-distance rides planned for the end of this year, and I don't want to be stuck with my steel belts showing. This is also a good opportunity to test out my toolkit. I kind of just bought this toolkit and started carrying it with me, but I'm not actually sure it has everything I need for trail repairs. So, let's dive in and find out how well I prepared myself for this simulated trailside mishap. First, let's start by removing this cotter pin. I like the idea of this cotter pin, but I'm not sure how many times I can bend it back and forth before it just breaks in half. I'm guessing I should probably just order another one to have on hand, just in case. I need just a little bit of extra leverage. Oops, yep. You would think this is my first day working with a camera, but it's not. Anyway, I got that out. On to step 2. The nut was definitely on there, but I got it loosened up pretty easily, and then just remove the washer. Just need to set up this little jack that I have just to get the rear wheel off the ground, and there we go. Now I can spin the wheel freely. After some light tapping and gentle prying, the rear axle pops out. Wheel removed. As I'm removing the air from this tire, I'm just thinking back to the last time that I changed a tire, and I had a hell of a time getting that bead to break and getting that bead off the rim. It was a disaster. This time, I just let the air out, and that bead just slipped right off the rim. I don't know what was up with these tires or rims or what the combination is, but it was so much easier than last time. I literally let the air out, pushed on the tire, and it came right off the bead. All right, let's start working this tire off. Did you just hear that? I just pinched that tube and popped it. I had intended on reusing these tubes. I do have another one, luckily, but that is a bummer. That was a $30 mistake. Rear tire off. For new tires, I've decided to go with Kenda Big Blocks. These are pretty popular tires, and while I have heard mixed reviews, I decided to give them a try for myself. With a 50/50 road off-road rating, I think these will be well suited to the kind of riding that I'm doing on the KLR. Now, I just have to get them mounted. Call me crazy. I know I've popped this tube, but I want to put some air in it and just make sure, because it is actually holding some air. But after I put a few pounds of pressure in it with this mini pump, I notice it does actually have a hole in it, so no, it cannot be reused. Bummer. Alright, brand new tube. Let's put some air in it. Not too much air and not too little air. We will put the appropriate amount of air in. And then I've heard you're supposed to coat them with talcum powder to keep them from sticking to the inside of the tire. So let's do that now. Now, I'm not saying I used too much talcum powder, but I may have used too much talcum powder. I'm not sure the repercussions of that, but I'll let you know if there are any later on down the road. I look off in the distance for the white knight in shining armor to come and save me from this horrible task. But, alas, no one is coming. I need to do this on my own. There comes a time when mounting a tire when you're looking at that bead saying, there's no way that's going to stretch over that rim. It's just too far. But you give it that little bit of extra gumption and muscle and it just pops on. And it's at this point that I realize that I didn't use any lubrication like I had intended. One day I will learn, but that's why we practice. Lubrication would have made this much easier, but I managed to do it without any. I guess that's a good thing. The better thing, perhaps, is that I've learned my lesson. Tire on, and I am in need of a break. But it's a short break. Let's get this inflated and set the beads. I've heard you shouldn't go over 40 pounds when setting the beads. I've gone up to 60 now, and they're still not seated. So, let's try some of that good old lubrication. As far as what you use for lubrication on tires, well, there are more opinions than there are mosquitoes at a lakeside campsite in July, and that's a lot. I've decided to use WD-40. Now, I've heard that it can deteriorate rubber with prolonged usage, but with just a spray to get the beads seated, I'm not really worried about it. And yes, I realize WD-40 is not a lubricant. It is a degreaser. I'm no expert. I just know what works. I get one pop from the tire. I do not get a second one, but with how easily that tire came off the bead, I'm not surprised that this one just slipped on without a pop. Upon visual inspection, it looks seated to me, so I'm gonna go with it. And with that, we are done with the rear tire. That took me about an hour and a half, which isn't terrible, but not great. I am pretty tired though, so I think I'll take a break, and I've got a road trip to go on with my wife for our anniversary. I'll be back in a couple of days to do the front tire. Alright, now it's day 2 and time to do the front tire. Now I've picked this particular spot to park my bike for a very specific reason, which I will show you in a few minutes. For now, let's just see what tools I need to take off this front wheel. Okay, so not the first thing that I need, but the major thing that I need is a 14mm Allen wrench to take out the axle. And I don't have one. An alternative to the very large Allen wrench is a socket to hex adapter, which I have here in SAE. Now that will not work on a metric bike. And yes, I know that because I did try it. Hey. It is also important to note that the KLR toolkit does not include a tool for removing the front wheel. It looks like day 2 was a bust. And now I have to wait for a new tool to arrive. Welcome to day 3 of this tire changing adventure. And once again, I have parked my bike here for a very specific reason, which I will show you in just a minute. For now, let's get out my new tools and try and get this front wheel off. There. Friggin' extra large Allen wrench. Who even comes up with these sizes? I went to my local hardware store and they didn't even have anything close. I had to special order it. Came in a pack of 2. I guess now I can have 2 KLRs. And then I discovered that these pinch bolts are a 6mm, and I only have up to 5mm in my toolkit. Looks like I'm ordering more Allen wrenches. I guess it's good to know now than on the trail somewhere. I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining. Now that we've got the axle loosened up, we need to get the wheel off the ground. One of my ideas was to use this jack underneath the crash bar here. Unfortunately, it's not quite tall enough to lift the bike, and it's just not going to work. If I was on the trail, I may use a rock or a log to give it a little more height, and maybe it would be sufficient. However, I have parked here for a very specific reason, as I said before. And here it is. You can use a ratchet strap to ratchet your handlebars and pull the bike over onto the kickstand, lifting the front wheel and allowing you to change it. This is a pretty cool trick, and might just be worth keeping a ratchet strap with you just for this purpose. Although they can also be used as a makeshift come-along if you ever get stuck in the mud or any other situations similar. Anyway, they're good to have with you, so let's use one for this. With the front wheel off, the process for changing the tire is the same as the rear, just a little bit easier in almost every way. Taking the tire off is not bad, and I did it without popping the tube. Rim off. New tire on. Tube in. And sometimes all you need is a third hand to get that last little bit to pop. with the front wheel on and the bike back on 2 wheels. Now it's time for a test ride. With that, that's pretty much it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button. If you are not subscribed, please consider it. And if you are subscribed, then I will see you next time.